Hey there, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, where I take a strategy, a concept, a practice that we use in autism fitness programming and give it to you so that you can utilize it in your own fitness and adapted PE programs for the autism and neurodivergent population. And before I get started, please definitely subscribe, and share this with anybody for whom it might make a difference in their day-to-day programming, their day-to-day lives, or those they serve. So in this Autism Fitness Tuesday training, I'm going to revisit probably the most questioned topic that I've received throughout my career, which is about motivation. And if we look at it from the perspective of the PAC profile, our standard operating system in autism fitness, we have the physical, our exercises, how we program them, how we progress or modify them. We have the adaptive, which is motivation and engagement. And then, of course, we have the cognitive, communication, and coaching. And we're going to focus on the adaptive, the motivational piece, because this is oftentimes, and quite possibly from a misconception standpoint, the most challenging aspect of integrating meaningful fitness programs for the autism population. Now, as always, because in neurodiversity we have a wide spectrum, when we are talking about motivation, this may have impact, or it may relate back to any individual, but in particular we're talking about some of our more moderate to high support individuals who need a lot of assistance throughout their days, navigating the day's challenges or activities of daily living, or having additional needs, right, throughout their life. So it's not that motivation is not also a factor with some of our more independent individuals, but we want to keep in mind the different populations within the populations, within the broader population as well. So that being said, and I've mentioned this before, it's a redundancy, one of the most common questions that I get from a parent or from a caregiver is, oh, my son or my daughter hates to exercise. And we have to break that down a little bit and ask, well, what do we mean by exercise? What have you tried? How was it approached? Was there a lot of have-to language? Were they just put onto or guided onto a treadmill and said, okay, do this for 10 minutes? I mean, there are so many questions to ask about that. But recently, I've been thinking more about the motivational aspect of it. And for anybody, and this is the neurotypical population included, there are three main reasons why people engage in training. And for the sake of everything that we're doing and focusing about, we'll talk about resistance-based training. Moving weight in repetition in order to develop lean musculature and generalize strength and strength endurance skills to activities of daily living, which is something that we're going to be talking about a little bit more. So the three reasons why anybody engages in strength training, going to the gym, home gym, wherever. Number one is body composition, right? Gain lean muscle, lose body fat as part of, and of course nutrition plays a huge component in this, but as part of a more comprehensive lifestyle program, strength training is certainly going to be a big factor in achieving those goals. So that's reason one. Reason two is sports performance. Someone is going to the gym, or they're being coached, they have a strength and conditioning program in order to enhance their general and maybe some specific, a little bit of carryover skills to their chosen sport. And that can be a competitive sport, it could be an individual or independent sport, it could be anything from rugby to mountain climbing to canoeing to, in my case, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, to anything else. With barbell sports, so powerlifting and Olympic lifting, obviously they're going to be specific to the use of those tools in the gym. That's a little bit different. But the sports performance or the activity performance is going to be the second main vertical of motivation. So we have body composition, sports performance, and then finally we have life skill enhancement. And this could be get stronger and improve conditioning so that we can meet the tasks of daily life with less pain, less injury, less cardiovascular overuse, or the huffing and puffing, going up and down the stairs. So just better daily performance with less fatigue and more capability, which of course builds some confidence as well. And those are the big three, all right? Those are the big three vertical motivational reasons. And then we could say a fourth or third and a half is simply a love of training. There are some people, myself included, who just love training in the gym, and the main benefits are almost secondary benefits or equal to the fact that we love to lift weight and love to perform strength training exercises. Great. So now we think about the autism and neurodivergent population, right? If they are not motivated by one of these three verticals, so again, body composition, sports training, activities of daily living and enhancing quality of life, then strength training becomes really abstract. It becomes, why am I doing this? What is this? Why am I exerting excess energy for no particular reason? Why am I sitting down, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, standing up, in the case of a squat, for example? So we, as professionals, as Autism Fitness certified pros, as instructors, need to input or to introduce meaning to these activities. If you think about motivation, we're only motivated when we know what's going on, when there is an outcome, when there is an achievement, when there is something that we are striving to accomplish, something that we're going to do. If we have no idea, or it isn't immediately clear why we are doing something, chances are, and this can be the case for many of our neurodivergent life skill athletes, we're going to be less inclined to participate because we don't understand or appreciate the reasoning behind this. This has nothing to do with intelligence per se. It's not, oh, our athlete doesn't understand why they're doing this. No, it's that we haven't made it meaningful for them yet. And if you're pausing right here saying, well, how do we do that? Many of the best practices that we utilize definitely apply to this. So pairing, for example, pairing the exercise with preferred activities, pairing it with a break, pairing it with access to a more enjoyable physical activity, pairing it with, a little bit of screen time, right? Shout out to my pals at First Work over there who make a great screen time app. I highly recommend you check it out. So pairing an abstract activity or action or task, especially if it's strenuous, doing a set of overhead presses or push-ups or squats with the up, down, up, down, up, down, why can't I just sit, is much more impactful and meaningful for that athlete if it's leading towards something that they enjoy. And over time, what happens with pairing is that neutral or sometimes aversive stimuli, something they don't like, takes on a more reinforcing quality because we have paired it with something that they enjoy, something that is reinforcing. This is why it's so critical in our programming, and this is something that we teach in the Autism Fitness certification, to avoid have-to language. Okay, you have to do this exercise. Or, all right, it's time. Sometimes tone can be the indicator or the determining factor. All right, it's time for you to do this now. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody's going to be motivated with a tone that's like, okay, I guess you have to do this now. So we think about it from, this comes back to empathetic coaching. Thinking about it from the perspective of that life skill athlete and figuring out what they need. What are the structures that we need to implement so that we can create more meaning for them in this program? Because if they're not motivated by one of those big three, the body comp, the sports performance, the life skills immediately, our job, or one of our jobs as a coach, is to tie it back, to tether it to this thing. So it's not so much that the athlete hates to exercise. They may not even enjoy it in the beginning, right? As many neurotypical people do not, because it's challenging and it's difficult and it may create a sense of low-key panic. You know, new environment, new coach, new instructions, new movements. Yeah, it can be overwhelming, which is why we want to introduce it at the pace of that particular individual and, of course, meet them where they're at. That being the case, our job is to tie it back to something that is enjoyable for them. And over time, as that athlete starts to develop comfort and capability with each exercise, the exercises themselves might take on a more reinforcing quality. And I say might, but we know this to be the case for many of our autism and neurodivergent athletes over and over and over and over. So this paradigm, or this notion of, oh, they hate to exercise, it's not the immediate and overwhelming dislike of exercise. That withstanding, because that could be the case, but more often the dislike of exercise or the aversion to exercise comes because the exercise has not been paired with something else. So if you don't have the why, you know, what have the past 10 years been around in terms of, you know, motivation and in terms of business and personal development, is finding the why. Well, if we have an athlete that doesn't know why they're doing that push-up, doesn't know why they're doing that overhead press, doesn't know why they're doing that farmer's walk, it's a little bit more difficult of a sell to have them do it to the best of their current capability, or to have repeat performance of that exercise. And that's why we want to tie in the reinforcement. That's where we can individualize it, right, for that athlete. Now, I like to keep it as simple as possible. Breaks, access to preferred activities, choice around exercise order, all of these things work really well with the majority of our athletes. And then we can personalize it a little bit. You want to throw some SpongeBob in there? Awesome. You want to throw some Cars characters in there? Great. Right? But the idea of the athlete, oh, they hate to exercise, I want to dispel that, because it's more often not making the initial connection. If it's too abstract, then it doesn't have meaning. So our job as coaches, our job as professionals, our job as implementors of fitness and adapted PE programming is to make it meaningful for that athlete. And I think that is the antidote to the whole hates to exercise thing. Again, an athlete can absolutely vocalize, oh, I hate this, or this is difficult. So can a neurotypical individual as well. And we want to respect the athlete enough to give them more opportunities in a way that is safe and appropriate and comfortable for them to get over that initial overwhelm or aversion to exercise, so that they can have it in their lifetime. Because, and if you're watching this, you probably already recognize, fitness, particularly resistance-based training, is going to be a huge differentiating factor in their overall quality of life, both in the short term and in the long term, and we want that for each individual. So we have to approach it from where they are now, set goals, and then continue to develop that programming from the perspective of the physical, the adaptive, and the cognitive. So I hope that this I think can be revelatory from the perspective of the consideration of the consideration. How does that athlete consider exercise, from their perspective? Hope this has been helpful for you. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, leave that in the comments below. And if you're ready to become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro, head on over to autismfitness.com. You can register, start your coursework immediately, and then meet me or one of our Master Pros for your full day virtual or in-person practical. Thanks for watching.